spots are key.
FIA World Touring Car Championship for the first time in Russia at Moscow Raceway. And we are in the 15-minute repair time, in which cars are repaired, refueled, retired and sent out to the grid for race 2, round 12 of the championship. This marks the midway point in terms of races of the season. One more European round to go on the streets of Porto in Portugal in 3 weeks' time, and then flying away around the planet. Charles Eng's car being ferociously worked on, and Ben Kosandouris is down with him now.
Obviously, we saw the large accident at the start of race 1, and one of the main protagonists in that was Charles Eng. I have the damaged part of the car. It was just both sides of this, wasn't it, that was damaged, really? Yeah, so I was at the start, like, I was still following the train, and all of a sudden, I just got hit from behind, and I didn't even remember anything since then. I was just a passenger. I got hit from all corners, and yeah, luckily we didn't break a lot of things, but the boys are working their butt off just to try to get me out there again, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. And of course, it's vitally important because, in theory, you should start on the front row of the grid for race 2. Yes, well, I'm actually starting on the inside. Yeah, was it inside? Yeah, it's an inside of row 1. So that's a pretty good chance I can get a really good start and try to hold on to my pace. But right now, we don't know how the car will perform. But let's cross our fingers and then hope for the best. So indeed, the track rod ends have been changed. The straight ones have been put on. They've been tweaked with the end here, and the car should be ready to go.
Autosport's Sam Tremaine down there as well, getting the skinny on what happened from Charles. And yeah, both track rods, I mean, basically the wheels are either pointing in horrendously or out horrendously, and just a victim of somebody else's incident. And that's so often the case, as you know, we heard from a number of drivers, when you're in the middle of the pack, things tend to happen to you, not because of you. Yeah, middle of the pack's always where it kicks off normally. And as you can see, those track rod ends are fairly well banjoed. I don't think they'll be going on another car in a hurry anyway. No, that's a nice souvenir for Ben, although good luck getting that through the scanners. So everybody walking around in the sunshine. Paddock is still packed with people. We've still got lots of Russian Touring Car Championship action coming up later on this afternoon at Moscow Raceway. But our race 1 winner, looking at 10th place on the grid, Ivan Muller. Now it's going to be interesting to see whether he could make much progress. And with turn 1 now opened up, hopefully again as a potential overtaking opportunity, to see whether we actually do get some racing in race 2, which unfortunately was sadly we were robbed of in race 1. I'm sure we'll see Muller come through the field there, and especially with that opportunity to overtake into turn 1 being reopened. I mean, this is where the Chevrolet is strong, and you know, it's an ideal situation really, because he knows he's got the car under him. He's got the ability. Everyone knows that. It's plain to see, and I think we'll see him make up some positions throughout the race. Well, the question then is going to be what happens to the guys on the front row of the grid. 2 BMWs, just to remind you, for race 2's front row. Mehdi Banani on pole, and that is Freddie Bart's car. Still not looking like it's going anywhere, is it? I think there's far too much damage in that. So it was out on the pit apron. Dominic Greiner there at Vika Sport, just coming out of the garage, probably to tell Ben that that is the end of the road. They're going to pack it up on the truck and start the long road journey home. It's about a 4-day journey to get in and out, and not the easiest drive. Banani will start on pole though. Charles Eng in second place. Michel Nucchier and Pepe Oriola, Chevrolet and Seat on row 2 of the grid. Then James Thompson, 5th for Lada. Can he get on the podium? Can he get a top podium result? A top 3 result here would just be a stunning boost for the Lada team. As he said in morning warm-up, going quickest, he said, one swallow does not make a summer, but right now, Lukoil and the Lada fans, they would love a swallow. No, they don't care about the summer. Just, you know, a nice result here in Moscow would just be a fairy tale story. So, again, not trying to put any pressure or commentators' hex on him. And what about the Hondas? All 3 of them really have underperformed here this weekend, Harry. They've not looked competitive really at all. No, and they've been so strong at the start of the season. They've been really, really good. And I thought this middle sector would have played into their hands. I thought with the changes of direction, the tighter corners, that might have been something that would suit the Honda, but obviously clearly it isn't.
We know that the two Castrol Works cars have both had problems of their own with water pressure issues and engine problems. So they missed a bit of testing time, and obviously that put Thiago Monteiro out of position for qualifying. So that obviously doesn't help, but in general performance hasn't been where what we expected it to be.
Has Ivan Muller really gone 101 points in front of Gabriele Tarquini? Yeah, he had 90 points after qualifying. My lord, I thought we were still down in the 30s and 40s. He is 101 points ahead with 25 for a win. He can have the summer off and still come back and be championship leader. That's 4 races he needs to score a 0 in. So both in Portugal, both in, let's say, Argentina or the USA or Japan or China, and still be a contender in Macau. My word.
It's a big ask, isn't it? But never say never, though. We've seen things bigger than that happen. I mean, this time last year it wasn't looking like, well, 2011 actually, sorry, when it looked like Rob was running away with the championship, and it looked like the job was done at this point in the season. But then Ivan came back towards the end and obviously won the championship. And
so everybody, I think, with the singular exception of Freddie Bart, whose car has been pushed back into the garage, very much not fixed. In the cars, you can see Charles Eng there waiting. The guys have got 6 minutes, which effectively means 5 minutes, and then drop the car and let him drive out the pit lane. He must be out of the pit lane. Now, what they're doing there, Harry, is the reservoir for the damper.
Yeah, I wonder whether the damper got damaged. It probably did, looking at how bad that front corner was. So if it's bent the damper, they'll have had to put a new damper in. So it looked like they were changing the setting on the reservoir. So they're probably just putting it to where it should, where it should be set at.
Absolutely. Darrell Young's car, bit of a tank tape special, not as much as Charles Eng's. Of course, if it wasn't for tank tape and tie wraps, about a third of the cars in any race on the grid wouldn't exist, would they? Let's get down to the pit lane, catch up again with Ben Constantinos.
As you could understand, being involved in a first lap crash where maybe it's not your fault is a frustrating thing. Freddie Bart doesn't want to speak to us. Thankfully, Dominic has come to be the spokesperson, exactly what the problem is with the BMW.
Yeah, we had a heavy accident in the first lap of race 1. Freddie was in the medical center to check, and he has some pain on the hand, and now he's in the truck to recover. Also, the car had a big damage in front and the rear, so we're not able to repair it in 20 minutes. So we say we'd withdraw from the race too. Now we close the door already to repair the car, prepare everything to go straight to Nienburg to our workshop to prepare everything for Porto. We have only a short time, and now the guy's working hard, and for sure next week will be tough for us.
Thank you very much. And indeed, the chassis at the front of the car is actually bent, and that's why they can't mount anything on and has to retire.
Yeah, in the words of Ben Lexon, the Aussie America's Cup yacht-winning designer, famous advert in Australia 20-odd years ago for a Toyota Space Cruiser. It's now got a Y-frame chassis, which is great, but not on a racing car, I'm afraid. Norman Mikulec comes to the grid. He will start race 2 in 7th place with Mehdi Banani and Charles Eng, hopefully both going to be present on the front row in race 1 here. We still have sunshine on the grid here in Moscow, and more cars make their way through. Mark Bassang just coming onto his grid spot, just down below us as we are in our competition position high on the grandstand, facing the scrutineering bay at the top end of the pit lane. Pit in, waiting to see. We're stood up because we are waiting to see with our own eyes Charles Eng come out of the pit lane. A minute. I know that the guys in the team are very much aware of what's going on, and you see it fired up, you hear it fired up, and now, come on, 50 seconds till the pit lane closes. He's got to get off there and out. 45 seconds, he is going to struggle to get out of the pit lane. He can't speed or he'll end up with a penalty. he will make it out. 30 seconds to get to the end of the pit lane. That, again, is astonishing. Now they've got to go to the grid and try and fix the rest of the bits on the car. New tyres, get anything else sorted out. They just had to get it out of the pits, and they've done it. With 20 seconds to spare, he leaves the pit lane. Guys, again, astonishing work by the Engstler Liquimoly team. Charles Eng will head to the front row of the grid, and the mechanics are now racing to join him.
That's a great job that they've done there. And when you do manage to get a car out in those sort of situations, it's an absolute buzz for all the team, and you can see the guys all in the background there applauding them. And obviously still not completely finished because they were dragging the tracking rod. And
yeah, they're going out with a flat bar and everything else, and they come in where James Nash is on the grid 12, so they've now got to leg it 6 rows up the grid to be ready for when their car arrives.
There's a tracking rod. I can see the tracking rod getting pushed through the crowd.
3 of the lads are going through, 4 of them are going through now, running up through the grid. And you'll see them come onto the front row. There they are, and they're waiting for the car to come to row 1 on the grid. Yves Bakelin there on the telephone, the chief of the Stewards College. And they know they're late on the grid because they're running into the grid girls. Where are you? Yeah, you're on the front, guys. Mehdi Benani and Michel Nukia being shown on the front row of the grid. Is that right? Nukia's car is on the front row of the grid. So where is Charles Eng going to go? Well, why has that happened?
They've obviously, because there's people down there, there's grid girls in the bay at the back there, which are obviously waiting for a car to arrive.
So has he been sent to the back of the grid? He has. Charles Eng has been sent to the back of the grid. And so, yes, the Vika Sport mechanics are now having to run right the way down the grid in the other direction.
I wonder if that was because of the outside assistance.
The Engstler mechanics, rather.
You know,
but he was in a position of danger.
Yeah, but he's lost.
Do not get penalised if your car is dragged out of a gravel trap or a safety area. And that only could be a penalty for race 1. It can't be a penalty for race 2. You can't be penalised in a second race for something that happened out of your control in race 1.
I'm not 100% on exactly what that rule is, but I know it's normally not the case that you can touch the car.
Whatever it is, it's rubbish.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's a rubbish rule, whatever it is. Well, no fairy tale there, I'm afraid, from Charles Eng. He will join the grid, but he'll be at the back of it, and that has shuffled everybody else up one. So Mehdi Benani is still on pole position. Alongside him, though, he now has Michel Nukia. That moves Thompson up to 4th. Daryl O'Young's repaired car will start in 16th place.
Yeah.
OK, we're hearing now that the car was taken out of Parc Fermé, or they broke Parc Fermé rules, whether willingly or not, to get the car repaired. So, although, judging by the way the mechanics were running, I'm not sure the team was aware of that. So maybe because he was recovered back on the flatbed, they weren't allowed to touch the car during race 1. Either way, again, nice one for writing rules that mean that we are less likely to have cars in race 2 after being innocent parties in a race 1 accident. That's a rule that needs looking at, I'm afraid. It's not to anybody's benefit to exclude cars from races just because they've been shunted off by somebody else. 3rd in the overall championship standings, our Yokohama driver points leader is James Nash. Right in front of him on the grid in 10th place. 9th now, of course, because James has been elevated to 10th. 9th on the grid for Ivan Muller, our race 1 winner. Normally the top 10 after qualifying go 1 to 10 in race 1's grid and 10 to 1 in race 2's. But we have lost Charles Eng from the front row of the grid. So 10th becomes 9th, 9th becomes 8th, and so on. And that means Ivan's on the outside for the run to the first corner rather than the inside. Harry, which would you take in the left-hander?
Yeah, I was looking at this before. I think it's quite an interesting one to have pole position on the outside here, because you've got 2 left-handers. Obviously, there is a reasonable run into that first corner, but ideally, if it was me, I'm not sure if I'd want to be on the inside or the outside, really. I mean, I would have thought it would be obvious to put pole, you know, stagger pole towards ahead, but on the inside. But you're also on the dirty side of the grid there as well, so I don't know. it's a difficult one. It's always a point of debate, but I think it should be okay for Banani because he's the only rear-wheel drive car at the front there. So even though he is on the outside, he's got to stagger anyway. So by the time he gets to turn 1, he's going to be well ahead of the guys behind him.
The next rear-wheel drive car behind Banani is Coronel in 8th place. Rob Huff will start just in front of him in 7th position. Norbert Mikulec in 6th spot in his Honda, with local Budapest taxi firm sponsorship as ever. One of the long-term stalwarts of Zengo Motorsport sponsorship. And Norby, 6th on the grid line, 7th in the championship. Already had that huge win in Hungary, of course. A massive emotional moment for him. Andrea Adamo with a lot of head scratching to do, I think, after this weekend. Not one of the Hondas under his charge, the 2 Castrol Honda cars, has proved flawless. Both have succumbed to water cooling problems. Tarquini's less notably than Thiago Montero's. Thiago struggling way down on the grid in what will now be 17th place on the grid after moving up 1 from his 18th qualifying spot because of Charles Eng being sent to the back. Well, for James Thompson, he should have been 5th on the grid. He's now 4th. He's on the inside line, run down to the inside of the first corner. I think James will take the opportunity there with everything he's got. And if he can, use the slipstream of Michel Nukia, or the foot in the door of Michel Nukia, to tuck inside at the first corner, I think Captain Jack Sparrow might have an even better chance than he expected to challenge to get this Lada Granta Sport onto the podium for the first time in his World Touring Car career. Just to remind you, Lada returning as a full factory effort this year for the first time in a number of years. They raced with the 110S and the Priora before, and now with the much more up-to-date Lada Granta.
James has got a fantastic opportunity there. I mean, that car's been pretty quick all weekend, and as we've mentioned before, you know, it seems to be fairly consistent. It doesn't have a big drop-off period in it. We know the cars around him. The track isn't too bad for drop-off, but we know that the cars have been struggling with tyre wear. There are a few geometry issues on the Lada, which will be revised when the updated package comes out later in the year. But you know, so far so good, really, and that's a great place to be starting on the inside there. And yeah, if he can hold his line and keep his elbows out around those first 2 turns, he should be in a decent enough position to fight for it, because he kept Tarquini behind him for the majority of the last race.
Top 4 on the grid are a team that has never won before, Lada, James Thompson. 2 first-time winners, 3rd place Pepe Oriola, 2nd place this man, Michel Nukia, both of whom claimed their first win in the World Touring Car Championship just a couple of races ago. And a man who has never won in the World Touring Car Championship, but has led race 2s before. Led most recently, I think, in Sonoma, California, and just dropped the car off the road under pressure from the lead. I think it's a very different Mehdi Banani who sits on the front row here. I'm sure his heart rate is going 19 to the dozen, but he exudes enjoyment as much as confidence, and that speaks volumes about how much more he's getting out of the car this year, how much better it's working with him and Pro Team. Something has meshed, something has dropped into place, something is working in Banani's head with his car that wasn't last year, and he just looks an entirely different human being.
Just even the way he carries himself around the pit lane and around the paddock, you can tell he seems a lot more relaxed as a person, and this is this definitely the best opportunity that he's going to have probably all season to win a race.
Definitely.
First position, starting pole, and obviously this circuit, as we've seen in the previous race, it's perfect for BMWs. The middle sector is great. If he can build a bit of a gap there, his only real worry, I would say, is Leger down sector 3.
Yeah. If he can get away from Michel Nukia on the first lap in the twisty stuff, Nukia may not be able to get close enough up the hill onto the pit straight to be able to challenge into turn 1. Of course, that's all to come. We're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to wait and see how Pepe Oriola and James Thompson do from row 2, and how the Chevrolets of our 2 points leaders, Ivan Muller and James Nash, for the overall trophy and for the Yokohama drivers, how they fare from row 5 of the grid. And of course, they are now in prime position, both of those Chevys, for all of the things that happen at a first corner to be happening around them, not way behind them. So they won't be counting any chickens. Tarquini Mikulits 5th and 6th on the grid. Rob Huff and Tom Coronel 7th and 8th. And then our 2 points leaders. Ivar Muller, the championship leader, and James Nash just by 5 points, not Muller's 101, the leader of the Yokohama drivers' standings. Well, Basseng Alex McDowell, 13th and 14th, they've all moved up, as has everybody on the grid except for Mehdi Banani, moved up one, as Charles Eng's car has been dropped right to the back of the grid after all that work. I hope he has a very enterprising and enjoyable race, because the mechanics certainly deserve something to cheer about after working a superhuman job to get him onto this race 2 grid. Cycling through our onboard cameras. I think about the only people that don't have a camera pointing on them now, Harry, is you and me, for which I'm eternally grateful. So 13 laps, barring any other indiscretions, of this Moscow Raceway near 4-kilometre circuit. And let's see whether we get another first-time winner this season. That would really be a massive, massive moment. Michel Nukia, 2 wins already this year. His first coming in Marrakesh, Morocco. James Nash, a first-time winner last time out in the Salzburg Ring. We've also had first-time wins this season for Pepe Oriola. Well, let's get down to Rob Huff. Catch up with him again on the formation lap.
A little bit disappointed after race 1 that we lost the place to Norby. He drove very well and couldn't really get a chance to get past him. Had 1 or 2 goes, but time to put it right in this one. Standing start, and so far with the standing starts, this car's been pretty nice to me. So let's hope for a good one today. Very complicated procedure. You'll see cross arm, hand brakes, clutches going, full throttles, bumpers being pushed. Buttons being turned on the steering wheel, just making sure mine are all in the right place for the start. Check that one, yeah. Fourth position 3. So I've chosen my revs, I've chosen what map I want as well, chosen the limiter, chosen the boot. Try not to get any wheel spin. Slightly quicker warm-up lap this time from Mehdi. Yeah, just coming around, just trying to get as much heat in the brakes as possible, and obviously also getting the tyres up to temperature. We don't need to worry about the tyres too much on this track because the curbs aren't quite so big. A lot of fumes out the back of Norby's car in race 1. Right, the front shot is difficult to breathe, but hopefully we'll get past it this time.
With the rest of the field coming round for the standing start of round 12 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. 101 points clear is Ivar Muller, Gabriele Tarquini in second. There's the pro team guys. Their man starts on the front row of the grid. He would be the first ever Moroccan, I'm pretty sure of this, to win a World Championship class motor race. If he can claim victory here, it will be a massive, massive day for him.
What Rob was talking about there, about the buttons and the levers and the dials, everything needs to be pressed in the right orders and released. These cars are really, really complex things to get off the line. There's a lot to it, especially with the new turbo era. They have different turbo settings, anti-lag, well, it's not called anti-lag, but basically does the same thing, anti-lag type settings, and they all have to be in the exact position. You can set the map so you can have allow the engine to rev to what point you want it to rev to on the start. You can also set the point where you want the soft limit to drop. So it's getting all those things in place, which they've done dummy start this morning, worked out roughly what they want to do with that, and this is where they've got to make it count, really.
So much easier with my Mini. I've all got to do is remember to select first gear, hang 6,000 on it, and step off the clutch, and away we go. It's a very different world when you're a professional compared to a punter. Final cars making their way to the grid, last of whom will be Charles Eng. Revs rising as we get ready for 13 laps. Round 12, the halfway point of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. The grid is complete, the green flag waves, the red lights will come on. Crescendo of noise under the roof of this Moscow Raceway grandstand, and away we go. Great start from Banani, dreadful start from James Thompson. Tarquini cuts him off as he goes down to the inside. It is Banani who leads by a country mile. Nukia then Thompson's down to 6th or 7th place. great start from Mehdi Benani, went off like a scalded rabbit. Has nobody else got a turbo? The BMW has gone. Nukia made a bad start. Thompson an awful one. Oriola's up the inside of Tarquini. Great stuff from Pepe Oriola. And Tomo has got to get right back in this on lap 1. Tarquini shoves Oriola, and Tomo's up the inside, and he could get by. Tarquini, as ever, biffs Oriola off. He got bit trying to do that in Hungary, didn't he, Gabrielli? But got right into Oriola. I don't think John Cleland will allow the stewards to allow that to go unnoticed.
Yeah, I think that's a penalty. I mean, again, unintentional, but it's really ruined Oriola's chances there.
It was intentional. He stuck his nose on the inside. He always knew Oriola was going to try and come in and get around the corner. Where did he think he was going to go?
A professional foul, maybe.
Cleland will spot that instantly. He is our driver advisor with the stewards. So Benani leads. Nukia now clear of Tarquini, who's holding everybody else up. Thompson in 4th. Tarquini smoking a lot. Coronel up to 5th. Great start from him. Huff didn't make progress. He's in 6th. He got ahead of Oriola after that 5th. And then Muller is in 8th ahead of Mikulits. So at least Rob got by Mikulits. Here is Muller. Past Oriola. Yes, that is a change perhaps for 7th. Let's see if it works. On board with Pepe. There's the Chevy. Is he far enough in front? Blimey, O'Reilly, look at that. Just drove by him. Wow, that was pretty indicative of pace there, wasn't it? Nukia in 2nd place is 1.3 behind Benani, who has set the fastest lap of the race. A 1 minute 45.3. Nukia's lap from a standing start, a 1 minute 46.6. 1.3 seconds. Now, how much does Tom Coronel wish he'd started on pole?
Yeah, and a 45.3, that's not far off qualifying times.
That is just electrifying. This is the battle for 3rd. Tarquini in the red, white and green Honda. Thompson in the red and white Lada as Charles Eng comes into the pit lane with his damaged car. And more damage, right front corner, and Charles Eng's car has collapsed. So the guys got it back together, but the steering arm has got broken or has come undone. On board with Huff, he's right up behind Coronel. That's the battle for 5th, behind Thompson, who's in 4th. Who is in 4th behind Tarquini, who's 3rd. So you've got 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, then 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th altogether. 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th is Oriola, Mikulits, Chilton and O'Young.
Thompson's looking racy behind Tarquini here.
Yeah, he needs to, because Muller's now closed on the back of that queue. Muller's not going to get a gimme. Whoa, and Coronel's up the inside of Tomo.
That was a good move.
And that shows the Lada struggling like all the other front-wheel drive cars in that twisty hairpin section. Charles, I am so sorry, my friend. That is dreadful luck. Such hard work from the team, and in the end, all for nothing. But they gave it what they had. Thompson defends from Huff, Huff defends from Muller. Tarquini not yet defending from Coronel, but he might need to. Look at Tom Coronel get the power down early in the corner. Drives it off the apex. Benani leads by 0.8. Fastest lap of the race from Nukia, 1:44.4 to 1:44.9 of Benani. Half a second he found on that lap. Well, here's Tomo using the front-wheel drive line. Look at the grip that Tom had, turning inside him, taking that speed up to the apex.
Yeah.
Late lunge. I'm not sure Tomo saw that coming.
No, and I don't think he could have done much about it either, to be honest, because if he'd put himself out there to defend it, he would have been done on the exit anyway.
Yep. So Benani leads. Nukia 2nd, fastest lap of the race for the Dane. Tarquini, Coronel, Thompson, Huff, Muller. That is your next battle. We're on board with Muller, the race 1 winner. And there is Daryl O'Young, who is currently 3rd in the Yokohama drivers' standings in this race. Benani and Nukia 1st and 2nd, James Nash 4th. So Nash could lose the points lead if nothing changes, and will lose the points lead if Benani is passed by Nukia.
If Coronel gets past Tarquini here, this is going to make that battle for the lead very exciting.
Oh, Gabrielli has a big swerve, as he will, but Tom has still got the inside line, and this is BMW territory. And also, right up behind, comes the Lada and doesn't get through. Tom Tom drifts out very wide indeed. Tarquini's back with him.
There's a little bit of contact there as well.
Yes, but who's got the drag race up the hill? It doesn't matter unless Tarquini can get clearly in front. Coronel will have the line on the inside.
Look at the speed of the ladder.
Thompson's on the outside. This is what he wanted. This is why he wanted Monza and Marrakesh to go well, because it's so quick in a straight line with its tiny frontal area. Tarquini biffs Coronel and a chance for Huff and Muller. Muller's going to come out of this smelling and roses. He always does. It's 4 wide. Can Muller make it 5 wide? Huff comes out. Muller, and then Thompson's in the barriers with Coronel. And that must have been contact with Tarquini as well in the middle.
Yeah, that looked like Coronel got to him.
And Muller, as ever, is going to squeeze through for 3rd place. Huff is going to deny him now. Oriola's right there, and that's the view from Huff's camera. Hey, Muller, those are expensive cameras, mate. Come on, man. Right behind is the orange and black of Norbert Mikulits. You just knew as that shaped up, Muller was always going to come through there. He's silicon-coated, isn't he?
Yeah, just seemed to slip through all the shenanigans completely unscathed.
Well, it's Bernani from Nokia, and then Huff and Muller. They were 4th and 7th at the line, Huff and Muller. They're now 3rd and 4th. And Bernani has got Nokia all over him. Nokia, a first-time winner in Marrakesh, has won now twice because he won race 1 in Salzburg. And again, let's watch Tarquini and Thompson on the outside.
It looked like Tom actually came across the front of Tarquini a little bit there, to be honest.
Tried to pinch an inch because Muller and Huff were on the inside line. And that was not Gabrielli's fault in that instance, but it was the 3rd contact between them. Nukia's got lots of speed. This is for the lead of the race. There's nothing the BMW can do. He's dead in the water. And Michel Nukia drives around the outside. Bernani breaks desperately late. He's on the inside. Wheel to wheel contact. Whoa, and Nukia keeps it alive, keeps the power in. And it is going to be a drag race to the line. Behind it's Huff and Muller for 3rd place. And this is still 9 laps to go. 8 laps to go now. This is now lap 5 of 13. Well, still 9 laps to go. Bernani is still in the lead, but his 1.5-second lead from lap 1 has all gone. Michel Nukia could win a 3rd race this season, which will make him the 2nd most successful driver in the championship. Mehdi Bernani leads in the red, white and green of Morocco. The pro team guys on the pit wall barely daring to hold their breath. Harry Volkard, last corner, fair?
It's difficult. I mean, you could argue that Bernani kind of had the inside line and Najad turned across the front of him, but yeah, I mean, it's, again, a racing incident.
I'm going to let them fight.
Yeah.
I'm going to let them fight. It's for victory. It's for a 1st ever win for Bernani. You want him to roll over? No, you don't want him to roll over. If Nukia's going to beat him, he's got to beat him. Thompson's in the pit lane, by the way, and that is the end of the race for the Lada, and end of any hopes of a big result, I'm afraid, from this 2nd race. And he could have challenged to be on the podium in that Lada Granta Sport. I'm afraid it is wrecked.
Yeah, quite a lot of damage out on the carbon fibre front.
Chilton inside Tarquini, who's sinking like a stone. Tarquini has gone down from what was the battle for 3rd, and Chilton's just gone by him for 7th place.
I think Tarquini obviously involved in that incident as well, but he's probably got some damage as a result.
Well, he lost a lot of ground too. Bernani this time holding off Nukia in the twisty stuff, and the Dane not able to get close enough, but it's not over. This front straight is good for the Chevy as well. He's looking to the inside this time. Not quite close enough. Bernani, is he going to stay on the road or drift out wide? Again, good control from Mehdi Bernani. This is really mature racing. Tarquini trying to hold off as he gets back inside. Chilton for 7th, and Daryl O'Young's on the inside there. Mind your P's and Q's, you boys.
Yeah, I can see this going off.
Play nice. Tarquini again, bumping his way through. If there's a place to be had that involves using his shoulder pads, then Gabrielli will use his shoulder pads.
That's up the inside of Nasher as well.
Yeah, again, the BMW showing great front end. And that's the problem with the front-wheel drive cars here. The front just washes across the track. With the BMW, it doesn't so much.
Yeah, and they can just tuck it up the inside, and there's nothing you can do. That you can't even defend against it because you're going to be running all over the track and damaging your tyres even more if you try to.
It's like racing my Mini in the rain. The throttle is just an understeer switch. Want more understeer? Push the switch harder. It's the same here. If it starts to drift wide, you can't chase the throttle to fight it. In a front drive car, with the BMW can.
So Rob Huff's going to have his work cut out here to defend against Muller. Although the Seat has been looking very strong all weekend in that Sector 2.
One of the best tracks this season for the Seat. Well, the clash between Tom Coronel and the number 15 car, or the number 3 car, Gabriele Tarquini, will be investigated by the stewards. They are assuming that Thompson was the innocent party in that, as the man on the outside so often is when he gets knocked out of bed. Oh, and Muller's almost inside the boot of the Seat, not quite.
And obviously these guys have raced each other's cars, so they know the strong and weak points of each other's car as well. You know, Rob obviously used to drive, is the current world champion from driving a Chevrolet Cruze, while Ivan Muller's won world championships in the car that Rob Huff's now driving, so they both know the strengths and weaknesses of each other's cars, so they'll know exactly where to put their car in relation to their teammates, to their rivals.
Huff is the fastest man on the track at the moment. Well, this is the investigation, and Coronel moves over on Tarquini. Tarquini will hold his hands up and say, look, I'm innocent party. Ivan moved over despite the fact there were 3 cars outside him. Now, he didn't make contact with anybody, but I would like to hear a racing driver's view of that to see whether he initiated it. And Bernani right up the inside. Can he hold the pace here in this double left-hander? He can.
What an overtake.
He takes the lead. What a pass.
That's over that crest as well. Yeah. We said yesterday that would be a
scary
really
place to pass. Yeah, Harry, that was a great move.
It was a fantastic move up the inside as well. And to move up the inside on a BMW as well, you know, it's a big thing in a front-wheel drive, and especially there, you're coming over that crest and the car's so unloaded, and you're carrying a load of speed in there as well. It's kind of deceptive from the TV point of view, but when you're actually driving around the track, you can see how much mid-corner speed you actually carry over that crest.
It is very quick up to that rise. They're approaching 185 kilometers an hour there and turning in, carrying a good 120 k's into the corner. Good move from Michel Nukia. Now can he pull away from Bernani? Up the straight he can. Look at Huff leave Muller. What did Ivan do wrong there in Sector 2? Now, can Bernani get it back? He's got to pile on the pressure. He's got to force the mistake. Chilton still can't get by. Nukia P1, I think he doesn't need that on the lap board, but the team are thrilled with that. Mika Racing, their first year in this championship, they've already won 2 races. They're now leading a 3rd.
Yeah, they've done a great job of coming to this championship fairly fresh to it, and obviously they've done quite a lot in Sweden and Norway, but this is their first full campaign in World Touring Cars.
And it's not been just race 2 either. They won race 1 in Marrakesh, so it's not all about reverse grid. Nukia leads from Bernani. Down the pit road comes the 2nd Lada of Kozlovsky, so he is out as well. Both Ladas have retired. As you see, Chilton getting mugged by Tarquini, and Tarquini getting mugged by Daste. And obviously Daste then getting civil treatment from his compatriot and being eased off onto the gravel.
Yeah, going back to that incident with Muller at turn 1, obviously it's very difficult to call, because when you're in that situation, you don't know that there's 3 cars necessarily outside you.
Yeah, you do, because he followed them down the straight.
Yeah, but I don't think he would have known exactly how much room he had to play with.
He knew they were there because they weren't in front of him anymore, Harry, and they certainly weren't behind him. He didn't know how much room he had to play with, but there were 3 cars outside, and he still moved right.
Yeah, he didn't know exactly how much, and he's just trying to make the corner as wide as he possibly can for himself. Obviously, James was almost on the grass at that point. He wouldn't have known that.
No, I agree entirely, but what the stewards have to decide is whether Muller knew or cared. And if he didn't care, then he's culpable. If he didn't know, then I don't know how he didn't know. Where did he think those cars had gone that he followed all the way down the straight? He moved on the inside and then moved over to the right where there were 3 other drivers.
He didn't make any contact, which I think will probably be the deciding factor.
Yes, yeah, I think he might get away with that exactly because of that. You're right. Nukia leads. Bernani in 2nd now, 1.2 behind and in the clutches of Huff and Muller. So Mehdi Bernani's got to really focus now on staying in front of these 2 cars. Bernani in the BMW, Huff in the Seat, and Muller desperate again to get on the podium.
one of these guys has got to make a move. Well, Rob Huff at the moment, because the pressure mounting from behind, he can't afford to be stuck behind Bernani, and if he does, that's going to open the door for Muller at some point.
We talked with Huffy about it before, about Bernani, and yesterday we were talking about this. He said when he was chasing him before in Hungary, could not get by him, and he said to him afterwards, what a great job of defence. Clean, clinical, precise. Mehdi Bernani in the red, white and green BMW. The Moroccan driver in second place. Now, he's already had a second this year so far. He really wants one more. And he just hangs on to the lead, to second place, as the leader just hangs on to the lead. Bernani having a big slew there as well.
That's exactly what we saw happen with Tarquini on his on board on the same corner this morning, which ended him in the barrier.
Yeah. Nukia has recovered better. Here comes Huff on Bernani. Launches it on the inside. Has he got space? Bernani's in the middle of the road. Has to let him go through. And counters. And through comes Muller. Predictably again, Muller finds the best out of a situation and gets by Huff. Ronnie Hartfelt, the head of engineering at RML, is thrilled. This is his programme. Always has been. And he's on the inside. Muller goes through for second. Muller is going to end up winning this. Yeah. Huff goes through as well. No, can't quite get there. Dark skies overhead in the background. Shouldn't get to us. Muller is going to win both races here in Moscow for Lukoil. How do you like them apples?
Yeah, I know that was, again, it's the mark of a world champion, isn't it? And you can see that he's obviously got a great bit of kit under him, and he just drove that fantastically well. That took a great opportunity, which Rob opened the door for him. Yep. And that's the trouble when you're in a pack of 3 cars. You make a move like Rob did, which it was a great move in itself, but just really hard to make. You've got to make sure it sticks, because if it doesn't, this is the worst case scenario for Rob here. And it's just one of those facts about touring car racing. It's unavoidable, but it's what makes it exciting as well.
Absolutely right. Michal Nukia still the leader from Ivan Muller. Bernani drifting out a little wide. Huff tucks up on the inside, but Bernani's got the exit nailed. Huff still looking for a podium. Bernani sticking to his guns. Once again, resolute in defence. Ivan Muller, as ever, on the back of that queue, saw the half chance and took it well, didn't he? He really is the absolute opportunist hunter. Huff now with great speed up the straight. Bernani helping him by giving the toe away as well. Huff's going to have to go the long way round. Went up the inside last lap, trying the outside this lap. See how slippery it is offline as he drifts away from the racing line.
Thought he might have been able to get the cut back there and maybe go for an outbreak, do what Ivan did on the previous lap.
Trying to look into turn 1, can't get it. He'll have to look into turn 2 or 3. Bernani drifting out a little wide. Huff tucked right up underneath his back bumper. Gap now, 1.5 seconds, 3 to go from Nukia to Muller. Bernani and Huff battling for 3rd. Oriola 5th, Mikulec 6th, Chilton 7th, Tarquini still in 8th. Bernani still hanging on to this overall podium spot and 2nd of the Yokohama drivers.
I wonder if Rob's got enough left in his tyres. I mean, he still seems to be able to pull quite tight lines and get turned in fairly early in the corner, so it doesn't look like it's affecting him too much, but it's got to be at that stage.
Oh, over the brow, here he comes, up the inside. No. Didn't get close enough. He did almost get close enough.
There he is.
Bernani saw it coming and just shut the door in time. Muller, incidentally, in sector 1, pulled out 2/10 on Nukia. So the gap will be down to a 2nd by the line at that rate of closing. Still with Rob Huff behind. Bernani.
If Rob can just live with him through this sector, which he obviously can, he's still all over the bumper of him. Coming into sector 3, we can see the difference. Here we go, I think we're starting now. Bernani's done a good job to get off that corner well again, so that's going to make it difficult for Rob. But Bernani's just doing exactly what he needs to do. He's getting on the power in the right place there, and he's making it difficult. He's making Rob go wide every time into this corner, and it's going to be a big ask to go around the outside here.
He's going to give it a go anyway. Squeezes the outside line, and Bernani gets on the juice too soon and spins away from 3rd, 4th, whatever. And the pro team are disappointed. Well, it gets... Oh, was that under braking? I don't think he even got on the gas there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Rob was nowhere involved in that. He was just on the outside of him, so I think it must have been either on the brakes on the final downshift. Perhaps he just locked the rear wheels. And there you can see the rear wheel lock.
Good call. The last downshift just chunked in and snapped it sideways. That's how extreme the braking is here. And for Pro Team, no podium and disappointment from what might have been a glorious day. What about our race winner then? Michal Nukia, 1 second in front of Ivan Muller at the line and has taken a 10th back from Ivan in sector 1. Into the team garage comes René Munich. You saw Charles Eng's car there. Incidentally, text from Albert Lau just coming through on my phone. Alan Menu's engineer at RML last year saying that the team have to finish work on the car at the checkered flag, spanners down, and not allowed to touch it again then until Parc Fermé is open for the 15-minute repair time. And it would seem that that would have been the rule that they infringed. They may well have kept working on the car because they needed to get him out on track.
Yeah.
With Thiago Monteiro then, and Monteiro in 13th place, battling with Alex McDowell behind him. Mehdi Benani, so that gives you a position on Benani. He's in 14th spot now, inside with Thiago Monteiro. Two red, white and green cars. Monteiro this time with the speed up the straight. And behind is Mark Basseng in the second all-Incal Seat. Now he's going to go around the outside like Rob Huff did a lap ago. And this time Benani keeps the car under control. But again, you know, every mistake that you make under pressure like that is one that you will kick yourself with, and it will be like a dagger in your heart, but it's a mistake you won't make again.
Yeah,
and you've got to learn to be able to beat world champions.
Yeah, exactly. It's something you can learn from, you can take away from that, and it's, you know, he'll be kicking himself because it's such a minor little mistake, but obviously he's paid the sort of ultimate price for it, and you kind of got to feel for him really, because he's driven really well all weekend and driven really well for the last few rounds as well.
Last lap of the race, 0.8 of a second between Michal Nukia and Ivan Muller. Is Muller going to win it? Maybe I was a bit presumptive there that he would get to Nukia fast. Of course, they are both in Chevy Cruises, different teams, but essentially the same underpinnings. The black and white one was built by RML. Whose car was that? Was that an old Menu or an old Huff car? I can't remember. But Ivan Muller, anyway, is close again. Muller's personal best first sector of the race, a 35.2 to 35.4 of Nukia. The second sector will be closer. He will not be close enough, will he, to lunge in the final corner of the final lap of the final race? No, Nukia weaves down the straight to disavow Ivan of a last lap lunge up the inside. It is going to be very close indeed, but it will be win number 3 of the season for Michal Nukia and Nico Racing. Nukia, second only to Ivan Muller in terms of race wins this season. They've run apiece. This weekend, Ivan now has 4, Nukia has 3. Third for Rob Huff, 4th for Pepe Oriola, 5th for Mikulits, Chilton, Tarquini and Daste round out the top 8. But again, a 3rd win for Nico Racing.
What a great drive from Michal as well. I mean, obviously he started second up there, but it wasn't easy. He had to close down that gap on Benani as well, then push the move, force the move, made a good clean pass, and then obviously fend off from there. And, you know, it's difficult to pace yourself sometimes when you're in that position.
Well, the team are absolutely cock-a-hoop. You just saw in the background of that shot engineer Nigel Clyde looking relaxed, I think, as opposed to jubilant just yet. And for the all-Incal crew, another podium, courtesy of Rob Huff's 3rd position. Breathless stuff from Moscow, a win apiece in this weekend's action for Ivan Muller, the championship leader, and for Michal Nukia. And with his closest rivals, Tarquini in 7th and Nash in 10th, Muller has again massively extended his championship lead here at Moscow Raceway.